My son said, "Finally, we're splitting Mom's $8 million." And everyone laughed. That was the moment I pushed open the door and walked in. The air in the lawyer's office went flat. Silence, stiff and awkward, like the kind that falls over a church when someone drops a hymn book. Stephen, my eldest, turned pale, then blotchy, like he'd swallowed something wrong. Next to him, my daughter-in-law Judith clutched her expensive purse like it could protect her. The others just gawked. "I see I wasn't expected," I said slowly, letting my cane tap the hardwood floor as I stepped closer. "Good afternoon." The lawyer, Mr. Carlton, still with the same mustache he had in 1984, stood up so fast he nearly knocked over his water glass. "Mrs. McCrae, we thought—" "Yes, you thought I was dead." That broke the silence. Judith coughed. Someone muttered, "Jesus," and Stephen rose halfway from his chair. "Mom, sit!" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. I handed Mr. Carlton a large envelope. "This is the updated will, signed, notarized, filed. I trust you'll disregard the version you were about to read aloud." His hands shook as he took it. "This is extremely unusual." I looked around the room at the faces that just a moment ago were planning the distribution of my life's work like party favors. Not a single tear had been shed, not even a moment of silence for the woman they thought they'd buried 2 days ago. And that was only the beginning. 2 weeks earlier, I was lying in a narrow bed at Fairhaven Rehabilitation, staring at the water stains on the ceiling and wondering how long I'd last. A stroke, the doctors said. Mild, but enough to scare them. My speech was slurred. My right leg didn't move quite right. I was 78, and for the first time I felt every year of it. Stephen had nodded solemnly by my bedside that day, told the staff he'd take care of everything. "Get some rest, Mom," he'd said. "Don't worry about a thing." I didn't, not at first. I thought I had time. I thought I had family. But it was the nurse, Dileia, a sharp-eyed woman with soft hands, who gave me the first hint. One morning, while adjusting my pillows, she said, "Your son's been calling a lot. Not asking how you are, just logistics. Real estate stuff. You must have a nice house." Something inside me clicked. That afternoon, I asked for my bag, the one they'd left in the closet. My phone was still in it, untouched. So were my bank cards. But my key ring was missing. No house key, no safe key. Nothing. I asked Dileia to lock the door. Then I called Carlton. "Is anyone trying to access my estate?" I asked. A pause. Then, "Too careful. Why do you ask, Mrs. McCrae?" That told me everything. Stephen had been preparing. Judith, too, no doubt. They had probably drafted speeches already. Maybe even flyers for the charity fund they'd set up in my name. The grieving children of a quietly wealthy matriarch. How noble. They'd underestimated me. I might have been weak, but I wasn't stupid. Not yet. Not ever. The new will was short, clean. I had rewritten it with a different attorney, one who didn't know my family, one who didn't look at me like I was already gone. I left nothing to Stephen or Judith, nothing to my youngest, Michael, who hadn't called me in 3 months, nothing to the granddaughter who only texted when she needed tuition money. The money would go to a trust, one I'd manage while I lived. And after that, it would fund housing and legal aid for elderly women discarded by their families, women like me, like so many I'd met at Fairhaven. I gave Dileia a copy, told her to hold it if anything happened to me. And then I walked out of that place, against every discharge recommendation, and took a cab straight to Carlton's office. That's how I ended up in that conference room, watching my family squirm. That's how the real story begins.
The hallway outside my door was lined with polished linoleum and half-drawn curtains. Some residents screamed. Others muttered. I listened to the shuffle of nurses' shoes, the buzz of fluorescent light, the murmurs of daughters who came once a month, sons who spoke in clipped voices. Stephen had brought me here 3 days after the stroke. He'd said it was for my recovery, that this was the best in-state facility, that insurance would cover most of it. I nodded. What else could I do? My tongue was thick then, and my balance poor. But I remember the ride to Fairhaven, how he'd spoken with the air of a man completing a necessary task. Not unkind, just distant. Judith didn't come. Busy with the closing on the cabin, he'd explained. She sends love. She didn't. I spent my days in bed and in a worn armchair near the window. They said movement would return slowly. I didn't believe them. Or maybe I did, but I didn't care. What frightened me more was not the weakness. It was how quickly I had disappeared. The phone barely rang. Michael texted once. How you feeling? No punctuation, no follow-up. My granddaughter Lily posted a picture with a caption, visiting Grandma after her little stroke, still a queen. I wasn't in the photo, only the lobby orchid and her latte. No one asked what I wanted, what I feared, what I remembered. They all thought I was fading. Dileia, the nurse, was the first one who spoke to me like I still existed. You're sharper than most in this place, she said one morning, helping me into a wheelchair. I've seen the others. You're not like them. I said nothing. She looked at me for a while, then added, But your son? He doesn't seem to notice that. I turned my head toward her. Calls the desk every other day, she went on. Wants updates, but not the kind that matter. Doesn't ask how you slept or if you've had visitors. Just, how things are. Insurance, discharge timeline, asset stuff. She said it softly, like she wasn't sure she should. Later that day, I asked for my purse. Dileia fetched it from the locker and set it on my lap. I opened it slowly. My hand shook, not from nerves, but from recovery. Inside was my phone, my wallet, but the key ring was gone. I looked up at her. Missing something? Yes, she hesitated. I found this in your jacket pocket, she said, reaching into her scrubs and pulling out a single brass key on a red tag. Thought it might be important. It was the key to my safe deposit box. Not a house key, not a car, just that. One small brass key, ignored because it didn't open anything they could sell. I hid it beneath the lining of my pillow and stared at the ceiling all night. That was the moment something shifted. The next morning, I asked Dileia to close the door. Can you help me make a phone call? I asked. Private? She didn't hesitate. She brought the cordless, dialed for me, then placed it in my hand and walked out. I called Carlton's office, spoke to his assistant. Is anyone accessing my documents? I asked. A pause. I'm sorry, Mrs. McCrae, but I can't disclose. This is my legal property. I'm asking if anyone has requested or updated my will. Another pause. Then the sound of keyboard tapping. I see there was a request last Friday. Your son requested a certified copy of the last executed will. It was sent to his email. I said thank you and hung up. That evening, I made another call, not to Carlton, to a name Dileia gave me, a younger lawyer, someone outside the family's network. I want to draft a new will, I said, immediately, quietly. She didn't ask why, just gave me an address and said, I'll come to you. I spent the night making lists, Not of assets, but of people who had loved me, who had used me, who had visited me in the hospital when I broke my hip 10 years ago, who had laughed when I mixed up their birthdays, who had remembered me at all, and who hadn't. By morning, I was ready, not out of vengeance. I don't believe in revenge, but out of clarity, out of the ache that comes when you realize you raise children who see you as a wallet with a heartbeat. Let them laugh about my money. Let them think I'm done. I was just getting started. Mornings at Fairhaven had a rhythm, and once I learned it, I started using it. The early rounds, the medication cart, the soft hum of the breakfast TV in the lounge. The staff thought I was just another fading mind in a chair. Good.